Welcome to the Florida Band Podcast. You know why you're here. This is Everything Florida Band. From those who do band, for those who do band.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Florida Band Podcast. This is going to be part 2 of our 2-part episode on the best practices for Florida middle school band programs that was put out by the Florida Bandmasters Association. My name is Christian Gordon. I'm one of the band directors at Westglades Middle School in Parkland, Florida.
And I'm Andrew Lopez. I am the band director at Coniston Middle School in West Palm Beach.
On our last episode, we dove into what you would call the rationale behind making this document, which again is published on the FBA website. And we went over the findings for the overall band program. So regardless of middle school, high school, 6 through 12, junior high, the overall findings and suggestions that FBA has put out for the overall band program, that's what we reviewed in the first episode. What we're going to do now is dive into specifics for beginning band, intermediate level concert band, advanced band, and jazz band. So, Andrew, can you go ahead and start us off with beginning band?
Yeah, so with beginning band, I guess the first best practice is, it says the middle school band program in Florida that engages in best practices will observe the following in regards to its beginning band. Number 1 is students are scheduled in either heterogeneous or homogeneous classes, depending on the director's schedule and instructional strategies. Percussionists are scheduled homogeneously. That's a wish. Did you guys, you guys, since there's 2 of you, you guys engage in homogeneous, right?
Yeah, thankfully, because there's 2 of us and we co-teach every beginning band period so far, we are able to do heterogeneous or homogeneous, and the pronunciation.
Homogeneous is
there's
what you're
heterogeneous and there's heterogeneous, whatever. Basically whenever we want. And we start out, but I would say overall we're able to do homogeneous starting out. That's usually preferred. And then as the students begin to master some of the more basic fundamentals on their instrument, we divide up in heterogeneous classes, and even further than that, we'll divide the class into 2 heterogeneous groups. You mean a more advanced class and then a more slower paced class.
Wait, so you start homogeneous and then integrate? Because you said separate out.
I guess integrate, yeah. So basically, Kalen will take the woodwinds, I'll take the brass and the percussion.
Right. And
after, I guess, the first quarter, we'll combine as an entire class. So that would be a heterogeneous class, correct?
That's right.
Okay. And then after that, we might do that for a quarter or 2. And then for the remainder of the year, so 1 or 2 quarters, we'll split that class into 2 heterogeneous classes. One that's more advanced and one that is a little slower paced.
I follow you. Okay.
That's what we're able to do, thankfully.
What about your percussionists?
So percussionists fall into that.
Sure. I know, obviously, I'm the Lone Ranger at my school, so we do heterogeneous all the way, and I just teach the best I can. I have never really had a problem. I think obviously there are probably, especially in Florida, there are more people that teach heterogeneous than there are homogeneous, which is not a big deal. Personally, I like it because it's also, I'm able it's more fun having all those kids in one spot. My management's never really had an issue with that many kids, so the class size isn't an issue. The only thing where it gets dicey is when we're doing technique builder stuff, where with technique builders, it really is separated by brass and woodwinds and percussion. All the families are doing their own separate things. So when we get to technique builders that are more complicated, like Technique Builder 2 or Technique Builder 3, it does get, and you and I can do a whole episode on how we approach the same technique builder. That is the only part where it gets messy, because everything other than that, if we're not playing music, we're playing in unison. So it works out for me. And then the percussionists, what I normally do is with my percussionists, I will at least try to have all of them in the same beginning band class. It's like if I have three sections of beginning band, I'll try to, if I've got 6 percussionists, if I can get at least 4 of the 6 in one spot, that way the majority of the section is learning together, and then the other 2 are just, I'll teach them separately. And then also having percussion sectionals after school once a week to help bridge those gaps. But other than that, heterogeneous all the way. You want to do the second one?
Yeah, I'll just say at my first job, I did have to do heterogeneous like you. I had 2 sections of beginning band because it was a connections type schedule. And so I had sixth graders basically just split in half randomly. And yeah, it can definitely be done. And what actually saved me were the technique builders. But again, that's probably another episode that we can chat about that on. But basically designing fundamental exercises for your class to practice so that you are scaffolding little by little by little and allowing students to practice something while you're basically... Okay, so for example, one of the technique builders is slurs. In the slurring exercise, for example, clarinets, you can talk about going over the break or using the register key for clarinets while everybody else is playing their specific exercise that goes along with it. They aren't separate exercises that only the clarinet can play. That was what gave me trouble at first, but when I realized, they could be doing some kind of exercise while I'm working on register key with the clarinets, that's what helped a lot.
Yeah, no, it's a really smart way to hit everybody's specific points while also making sure that the ensemble can still rehearse together in a heterogeneous environment. I dig it.
It's about efficiency.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm glad that they put that there, that it can be either way. That's good. Also, Texas, I guess they have it great because they have 3 band directors at each school.
3 band directors.
Whatever. Moving on.
All right, next. Beginning band classes meet for a regular academic class period, 5 days per week throughout the school year, beginning in the 6th grade.
That's a duh.
Yeah, that's a duh. I hope that's the case everywhere.
Yeah.
I guess I could do the next one too.
Sure.
A full year of 6th grade beginning band should be made available to all students. If a fine arts wheel is part of the school curriculum, the exposure to each subject should be as short as possible to allow students to choose and begin full-time band instruction as soon as possible. Yes. We talked a little bit about the wheel yesterday, in our last episode. And
it was yesterday, guys.
Same thing. And the wheel is a big problem. You said you haven't seen band as part of a wheel, but I mentioned that I have. And could you imagine having beginners for 9 or 10 weeks at the beginning of their 6th grade year and then not having them in band again until 7th grade?
There's no better way to put that. That's actual booty.
So I'm glad that they put here that the wheel should be as short as possible. So like a 1 week or 2 week wheel to help students decide so that the rest of the year can be focused on them mastering whatever course they end up choosing, even if it's not band.
I will say, I do remember being in a wheel when I was in 6th grade. And what it was a 3-week wheel where you had the students picked 3 electives. The 6th graders picked 3 electives. And the first quarter was you would have 3 weeks in band, and then you'd have 3 weeks in art, and then you'd have 3 weeks in whatever. And by the end of the first 9 weeks, you would choose from there what you wanted to do. And I remember in those 3 weeks when I was in band is when my band director did the fittings. He did rhythm instruction. He did all the basics that you would cover in the first 3 weeks. And I remember I was really lucky because I had band last, which was super cool for me because like through the first 6 weeks where I had art, and then I never had PE. I think it was like art and drama. Something like that. I remember just like coasting through those 6 weeks because I was like, I knew I was gonna join band, but I had to go through the wheel, and I was like, oh man, I'm excited for band, and I would get super hyped up, and then the last 3 weeks, which was like the first 3 weeks of October, was beginning band for me, and then I started in earnest in the second quarter. So I recall it happening. I've personally never had to teach, and in my teaching life never seen it since, but I do remember that I was a part of the wheel. 3 weeks is good.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty good wheel.
Sure.
Then you get 3 quarters to do band.
Sure. You have any other thoughts on it?
Nope.
All right, next one.
You can do the next one.
Yeah. The average number of students in each beginning band class is 35 to 45 students. When a class exceeds 45 students, a new class should be scheduled. I agree with this. I just bump it up to 50. I told my administration they understand like 50 is the max that I am willing to teach in one class. I would say 35 to 45 is the magic number in order to give the students the best possible experience per the individual. Would you agree?
Yeah, when you hit that 50 number, it gets a little difficult. And my biggest class ever was 62.
Damn.
Yeah, and that's not like it started at 62 and shriveled down to, no, it was 62. It started at like 66 and ended up being 62 by the time we went to MPA. Yeah, big class.
Sure.
And that was difficult. Thankfully, that wasn't a beginner class. But yeah, we've had around 50. It does help to have 2 directors. I don't know what it would be for one no, I take that back, because I remember my second year teaching, we had a really good recruiting year. It was a large class. I did have 2 classes of 50, one class of 50, one class of 40. The 50 was the brass and percussion class, and it was very stressful. It was the very last period of the day, and it was beginners. So,
I mean,
yeah.
I do 50 every, like I tell my admin, 50 is the max, but I usually get 50 anyway. Since this year with COVID, my numbers are in the 40s. What it's going to look like is I'm probably going to be in the 40s. But for 6 years, for 5 years before COVID, it was always 50 kids in all 3 classes. So I always had about 150. I would shrivel down through the year. Like in the first 3 weeks of beginning band, I'd be like, you're in the wrong place. And I'd get them out. And by the end of the year, it always equalized to about 40 to 45-ish kids. But I always had the years starting packed with 150, just to give myself a chance to make sure everybody's right there. So I agree with that. And then
the
obviously,
fact that sorry, didn't mean to.
No, you're good.
Well, I was just gonna say that the fact that they say except for percussion class is interesting.
Yep.
Do they expect that all percussionists in the entire band program be in one class, or just beginner percussionists? Because we're going to see in a second the percentage that they recommend for beginning band instrumentation. That's not a lot of kids for a class.
No, I think it's honestly, I don't know. I've never seen a percussion class in Florida for beginning band. Typically, percussion classes are usually at the high school level. But from what I've seen, so yeah, I think we can kind of ignore that. If you're able to manage, if you have 2 band directors, then yeah, you could create a percussion class and go on from there. But I don't really know how that would work. Let's move on. Instrumentation across all classes is carefully planned. In general, the following percentages are observed. I could read out all these percentages, but we actually go over this in our fitting episode. Our fitting episode is actually episode 2 of our first season. So if you want to get more in depth on the fitting conversation and these percentages and how we reach these percentages, check out our fitting episode, which is episode 2. You want to keep it going?
Yeah, so I'll just go ahead and read the percentages as they are on here.
Sure.
But yeah, if you want more in-depth discussion on it and the exact percentages that he and I reach for and whether or not they change from year to year, definitely check out that episode. So we've got 12% flutes, 2% oboes, 4% bassoons, 24% clarinets.
Yay.
Yep, 9% saxophones, 12% trumpets, 8% horns, 10% trombones, 4% baritones, 9% tubas, and 6% percussion. And it says low reeds are moved over to those instruments in the second year, so they don't include low reeds.
That's right. Not getting too in depth, do you ever include tenor in the beginning band?
Only on special occasions.
Right. Yeah, I usually find that alto who's as flat as a tire. Like they just can't get pass off 4, and then I'm like, let's try tenor, and then it usually squeaks out. But anyway,
for me, it'll be a student that already has saxophone or clarinet experience, and we don't have room in our alto sax section.
Okay.
I will suggest tenor saxophone. Otherwise, we wait until like the last quarter to switch beginning band students over to one of the low reed instruments.
Sure.
For the following year. So they'll start at the end of beginning band in preparation for the following year.
Got it. Okay. Next one. Basic instruction for beginners is accomplished by using the following methods. Sorry. Beginning band method books, recordings that accompany method books, supplemental published material, director produced supplemental materials, audio and video recordings, guest clinicians, and live musical performances. Yes, I do all of these except for the recordings that accompany the method books. Because I'm just too cool for those recordings, and it's also I can't hear. I will play along with the kids, like I'll use the harmony director to play along with them, especially when we're learning things for the first time. But other than that, I use all of this, obviously. What about you?
Yeah, actually, we started using the recordings for the method book during COVID, and it helped a lot. And the kids really loved playing along, whether I was playing on the harmony director. Sometimes I would make up piano accompaniments on the spot, nothing fancy or anything, but I would make some stuff up for certain songs, and they'd be like, will you play the piano? Will you play the piano? Whenever we get to that song again, or they'll ask for the recording over the speaker.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to continue with that, honestly. But
I make it a goal. I make it a goal that when it's a goal for me to be able to move away from the piano, because they're like, we want to play on our own. We can do this. We got this. And I'm like, all right, prove it. And it's usually when we get to like a certain percentage of unison and there's no insane outliers, then I'll usually step away and be able to walk around and do my thing.
Yes.
So I do the opposite, but I dig it.
Well, it's not the opposite of me, because that's what we do too.
Sure.
But it just helps to have the positive attitude that comes from using the accompaniments from the method book. Like the kids just really like it. They think it sounds cool, and they like the way it just makes them play better. And then we wean them off of that in most occasions. And same with playing on the harmony director, playing in unison with them, we wean them off of that too. But yeah. Let's see. We definitely do director produced supplemental materials. I guess we do published material too, because we use Teaching Rhythm Logically. So I do need to get better about audio and video recordings of professionals.
I do audio video recordings of professionals, but I also do audio and video recordings of themselves. That's for me. That's what I got into with COVID, where I was like, well, I have a camera available. I'll just every now and then I would just turn the camera on of the smartboard and just record the kids in the room. And it really, really helps. It really, really helps. And I think for a lot of people in the fall, this may help for the intermediate band kids and for the advanced level kids who are coming back from home, who when they play, they look like the letter G. Having a video recording of them will show them what they look like. And I did this a lot, especially with audio and video. But yeah, I would, having your professional list of who you want to show them, but I also just recorded them themselves. I thought it was more funny than anything else, but it's also there's obvious things to learn from looking at yourself the same way we have to do it,
Yeah. All right, the next one is individual practice by beginning band students is monitored by one or more of the following: self-reporting on home practice forms signed by parents, homework assignments that are recorded and submitted, homework assignments that are checked off in band class through playoffs. So what we do at Westglades is, I guess, playoffs. We call them pass-offs.
Yeah.
And homework assignments recorded and submitted. We do that once a week. Sometimes we skip weeks, but once a week typically. But we do not, and we are against home practice forms. What about you?
Same. For me, it's, the playoffs and then homework assignments that are recorded and submitted are, especially in COVID, we're one and the same, because we use Flipgrid. We use the pass-offs, and then the pass-offs are recorded via Flipgrid during class. During, it's basically like, when we do our pass-off episode and we bring in Kaylin, we can talk about how you guys do it versus the way I do it, because but just in simple, the way I do it is, while the kids are doing pass-off time, if I'm not able to get to them, you submit it into Flipgrid. So that way they have at that moment, they have like the surefire moment of like, Mr. Lopez will come hear me play. Worst case scenario, he didn't hear me play today, but I did submit it into Flipgrid for him to look at later. And it's also just good practice for you as a band director to be making contact with your student, whether it's just SEL contact, just having a relationship with them, or hearing them play at least once a week. So that I cover that base by doing those two things simultaneously. I will die before I do home practice forms. I will die, because forgery is a thing, and 12-year-old Andrew Lopez is guilty of home practice form forgery. I've done it.
I've never had to do a practice form that I can recall, but forgery is definitely something I've done, and you can take me to jail. Mom, if you're listening, I'm sorry.
I mean, she's coming with you, man. She's the one who signed it.
That's the thing. She didn't sign it.
Well, see, I did both. Either if I forgot to have my parents sign it, I would sign it myself, or I would just be like, I practiced when they got home from work, and they go, oh, okay, and then sign it.
Right.
We're all going to jail.
It would be like a report card, and it would have to be signed, and I'd be like, there's no way I'm showing this report card to my parents.
Sure. This next bullet makes me feel sad because I just countered this, and I guess I got to work a little harder. It says, on average, the band director hears each student play individually in class at least 3 times per week. For me, this gets harder the more kids you have. And for me,
yes,
I think with my second and top bands, I was able to get to hear them, a couple times per week. But with my beginning bands with 150 kids, it's very difficult to get 3 times, especially if, the way we do it, we only have typically in the middle of the quarter, we'll only ever have 1 day for pass-off day. And you're lucky if you can make a couple of rounds through that room of, 45 to 50 kids. What do you think?
No. Well, okay. There are ways to do it, but you have to think outside the box a little bit. So I remember that, I would read a statement like this, and I would go, dang, make them play a playing test or play a song or an assignment, 3 times a week during class. Well, yeah, no. Turns out just having them play their tuning note for you counts, right? And so when you're tuning the band, and you can just go, everybody 4 beats, concert F, make it sound like the harmony director, put the harmony director on, start the metronome, go around the room. You're done in 5 minutes,
Well, by this logic, I hear them every day.
That.
By this logic, we hear them every day because we tune every day. So move, hooray.
Yeah. So that's one way that you can do that. And then
I guess that counts. Yeah.
Now, also individually in class, I would say in class can be flexible because just like you, we tell them if you're not able to do your pass off in person this week, send it in. It counts either way. And
right.
So we definitely do at least one time. Some students still send in 3 videos at once, and I guess that counts as 3 times,
right.
As long as they're different assignments. But yeah, we do strive for, at least once a week, and sometimes we get more.
Sure. Let's skip over this next one because we're going to have a whole episode on this. It's the performance assessment system is used in each beginning band class. Teachers may have students play before and after school as well. This is the pass-off system. We can cover this later.
Yep, sounds good. But just know, guys, it's in there.
It's in there, yeah.
Okay, next one. Students who do not exhibit sufficient progress on one instrument are allowed to switch to another instrument within the beginning band class at the discretion of the band director.
Yep.
So I need to be better about that one. I encourage students to stick with it for as long as possible because you just never know when it's going to click. And I don't want to run into, so-and-so got to switch. How come I can't switch?
Okay.
So what do you do?
I switch when I need to. Something I learned from when I was an intern. My intern teacher gave me basically a range and expectations per instruments. Like if you have a trumpet player, do you know what PLP is? Poor lip posture?
No.
Okay, so as a trumpet player, poor lip posture is a thing that happens on trumpets and it happens on trombone. It doesn't happen on baritone and euphonium, and it doesn't happen on tuba, and it doesn't really happen on French horn either because the French horn range is so broad. PLP is poor lip posture. It's your facial muscles are not capable of hitting above a certain range. So if you're a trumpet player, for example, if the highest note you can hit is like second space A, and you are squeezing that out, and your butt is clenched, and you are like going for it, and it's just flat as all get out or not coming out as bad tone, and you can't get higher, you have poor lip posture. And at that moment, you move down to, you put them on euphonium. Same with trombone. If they can't get above a certain range, like if they can't get above, fourth line F to maybe G, then they need to probably be on tuba. So that's poor lip posture on brass players is an absolute thing. I never knew it was called that, but because you've seen that before, right?
Yeah, I just would assume it's just an innate inability to play a certain instrument.
That's what it is. But sometimes, fittings can be deceiving, and kids will get put on the wrong stuff. So, but the actual technical term for that is PLP, poor lip posture. There's also certain things like, and usually what I do is for the woodwinds, if things aren't working out, like if you're a clarinet player and you're super flat, but it turns out they sound really great on an alto mouthpiece, I'll move them down. Same as we go down the line, alto to tenor, tenor to, I never put berries, or I'll do clarinet to bass clarinet. And then, but like and sometimes I've had flutes who like did a freak moment in their fitting, but then were never able to replicate it on the flute. I usually move them to percussion. I don't move kids often. I really don't. I might move maybe like 3 kids in an entire like year of beginning band out of about 150 this year to be about 114, but like I usually, out of that many kids, I'll usually maybe move 3. And when the kids ask why did he get to move or why did she get to move, I'll say it wasn't the best fit, and turns out, and I use like a pants analogy. I'm just like, turns out I bought them size 30 pants when they're a size 28, so chill. And then they're like, well, what can we do? I'm like, because they're like, what can we do to change instruments? And I'll be like, well, do you want to start sucking at your pass-offs? And they go, no. And I'm like, then keep going. And then it's usually fine. But yeah, I do switch kids, but it's for sure, it's very, very, very little of it. And when it usually switches, the kids are usually pretty happy with it. So.
Understood. No, there's some good pointers in there.
Cool.
Okay. Good to know. Okay, the beginning band classes present 2 to 4 public performances during the school year, either individually or combined.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that that's a good rule to follow.
Mm-hmm.
If you're one of the, if you're a band director that likes to wait all the way until the spring concert to do a beginning band concert, you're kind of doing your kids a disservice, I would say.
Why is that?
I would say that part of the reason why they are learning an instrument is to perform for others. And if the only performance experience that they have goes sour, you don't have a chance to save it.
That's a good point. I do the 2 to 4. I just wanted you to elaborate on that.
Yeah. We actually do one in October. I think you said you called it a recital, beginning band recital. We just call it a concert or a informative performance. And we basically just do a day of band class in front of their parents.
Same. That's really what the recital is too. But you guys do it. You guys use the other concert bands too, right?
Typically, if the beginning band is ever large enough, we would do it separate. We would actually do all the concerts beginning band on a separate day, because I mean it could be up to yours 140 150 kids in a normal year. So
yeah. No, we do for our recital. It's the same thing. It's an informant where I'll be like, we'll walk them through it, because in reality that concert is maximum 30 minutes long, which I don't really justify. I don't have my veterans play on it. Typically I'll have my jazz band play, and that'll help extend it to maybe like 45 minutes. But since it's such a short performance for the beginners, I don't call it a concert. I call it a recital. And and I don't call it a recital to the kids until we're at the concert. I'll usually drop the word "Welcome to the beginning band recital" to the parents, and the kids are so nervous or so excited they don't really hear it. It doesn't really matter. But I call it a recital just because it's about as long as a college recital, in my experience. You want to do the next one?
Sure. Beginning band students are encouraged to prepare and perform a solo and/or ensemble for the FBA District Solo and Ensemble MPA.
Ooh.
Why are you saying that?
I like that. I mean, we both agree with that, but I didn't. That wasn't in here last time I read this, so that's cool.
I agree with beginning band students are encouraged to prepare and perform a solo and/or ensemble.
Right.
I'll stop there. Because I don't care how they do it necessarily. I don't think it necessarily has to be FBA. I'm not trying to discourage anybody from doing FBA. It's a complicated process. It's hard to streamline and be efficient with that. If there's an easier way to get your students to perform a solo, we could do an episode. I think actually we have an episode planned on this, right? So we'll talk about it then.
You're very much going to be the devil's advocate, but that'll be a good conversation.
Yes.
We're going to try and bring in Bill Castillo, because his entire curriculum was built off this.
Okay.
But that'll be a good conversation.
Okay.
So, cool.
But both of us are in agreement that the beginning band students should be working on a solo or an ensemble, right?
At some point in the year, yeah.
Okay. And hit this last one here for us.
All right. At the end of the first year playing an instrument, students are placed in the second year band based on results of individual performance assessments. Yep. I've never found decent justification for a 6th grade band, 7th grade band, 8th grade band. It's ability based, son. And if you can't play ability based, like it's just pedagogically sound. You want to move you want the student to progress at the student's level, not at the level that you're trying to control them at, which makes no sense as a teacher. I don't care how charged that sounds.
No, it's true. I would say if you do have to do based on the way your principal or whoever schedules your classes, I think there are ways to mitigate boredom or mitigate stress, being stressed out. Students that aren't able to keep up, not stressing them out too bad. There might be ways to do that. I think there are some ways to do that, but ability-based is definitely better.
Yep.
I would say.
All right, so I guess that sums it up for beginning band. Moving on to intermediate level concert band. The first, I say, the middle school band program in Florida that engages in best practices will observe the following in regards to its intermediate level concert band. First off, do you call it intermediate level?
Well, not formally, but the students know that concert band is intermediate.
Same. Some people do that, and I'm just like, when I first got to Coniston, there was advanced band and then intermediate band. I was like, ugh.
Well, I know some schools, their second band is called advanced band, and then they'll do like symphonic band.
Right.
Instead of calling it concert band.
Yeah, I hate that.
I don't really think it matters, but
I'm a dressy person, so I try to, it's for me it's symphonic band and wind ensemble, but the name itself, you're right, doesn't really have a meaning to it. There are some people who get super poosty, like a wind ensemble is on one per part, and it's like, dude, just all right, okay. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Anyway, the first bullet is students are required to perform a formal assessment in order to be placed in the intermediate level concert band. I think for us it's just pass-offs, right?
Yeah, actually, if you don't mind, this bullet plus required to perform a formal audition or performance assessment for seating, and also given the opportunity to reseat for a higher chair.
Pass-offs.
Those are the next two bullets. Yeah,
yes.
We basically knock out 3 birds with one stone. That stone is called pass-offs, but that's for a different episode.
That's also bullet number 4, which is students in the intermediate level concert band earn their grades based on more than just participation and attendance. Criteria used in assigning grades, it includes individual performance assessment, group assessment, student self-assessment, and written test pass-offs. In addition to written tests, I do like that they include student self-assessment, but yeah, pass-offs too.
Yeah, we do a self-assessment.
Yeah. Sometimes
it's Mindset Monday. Sometimes it's post-concert reflection.
Yep.
And they'll do a self-assessment.
For your post-concert reflection, do you do I have them grade themselves MPA style. I hand them the rubric and then say go.
No, it's different, but that's not a bad way to do it.
I love that way. Because
I think it's cool. We do that during MPA season. We'll go through the rubric.
Sure.
And I'll put it up on the screen and go, okay, we just played this section. Did we hit all these? If not, then, we have a discussion that way.
Right. I like hitting it with the first concert because then they're thinking about it beforehand, and it's the sooner. I gotta talk about my checklist that I have. I got it from Jamie Groves at Bach Middle School. It is the sheet, and I use that to have them assess themselves on that all the time. Anyway, it's the majority of this bullet was also pass-offs. You want to read the next one?
The intermediate level concert band participates in the FBA District Concert Band MPA each year. Participation may be for comments only based on the judgment of the band director. I don't know if that's necessary, personally.
Talk about the comments only?
Or doing it at all. With your intermediate level group.
I have a different opinion, but you want to elaborate on yours?
I'm just saying I don't know. I think from year to year, but I don't know if it's necessary that your second band goes. Especially if you don't have funds. If you're able to take at least one band, that should be fine. But I don't know if it's necessary. And you could do a mock MPA with them, especially if you're going to do comments only. You could do a mock MPA and save your money. That's just me. What are your thoughts?
So I take them. I think it's important to take them every year. My first 2 years at Coniston, I did not take them. And then by the end of the year, there was this very obvious gap in ability between my second band and my top band, because the top band went through the rigor of MPA season. All concert seasons should be rigorous, but there is, I think we can agree, there is a certain level of rigor that occurs during the months of January to March. And
I can agree with that.
And that rigor, I think, is so important for the second band to experience. The intermediate level bands is, some people might have 3, so I think it's insanely important for those bands to experience, even if you're not playing. Even if the band's playing 2 grade 1s, they need to do it. There's something about getting the assessment. There's something about, they get their assessment from their judges and they get their feedback, but there's something about the experience, having the kids experience the environment of being in that concert hall, watching other bands, having them go through the warm-up room, and it not being at their own school, getting the kids out of their comfort level elevates their game in a way that I don't think can be replicated at a mock assessment at your own school. I It's ever since I've been doing that for about 3 years, and I don't ever want to not do it ever again. Because the cool thing is, like, if you have even if you do a mock performance, when you take them when they move up to, if they're a 7th grader in the intermediate band and they go to the 8th grade and they're in the top band, you have to still explain that experience to them. Whereas if they were a 7th grader and they went to MPA, like, they get it. They were there. They know exactly what's at stake, and they know exactly what to expect. So then you can just dive in and push. It's the same thing. It's like you can tell when you watch the NBA finals, and it's like you have Michael Jordan and the Bulls in 95, 90, or was it 96, 97, facing the Utah Jazz. They crushed the Jazz because the Jazz had never been to the finals before, but the Bulls had been to the finals before, and it's the same idea. And it's not about crushing other bands, but you get what I mean? Like, just by being there and having that experience, it ups their game. I think it's insanely important that they should be there. In terms of funding, you got to find a way. Fundraise, maybe do like a quick MPA fundraiser with just the second band so they can raise enough money for a bus. Maybe if the school that you're performing at is close enough to your school, you might even be able to do like a carpool situation. I've seen bands do that before, but you got to find a way. As for comments only, I think, it depends on the discretion of your band director. I think usually I almost did comments only for my first year taking the second band, but I never have, and I don't think I will. What do you think?
Oh, I already shared my thoughts.
Oh, okay. Moving on. So moving on to the next one. On average, the intermediate level concert band performs 2 to 4 formal public concerts during the regular school year, excluding MPA. So in addition to MPA doing 2 to 4, what do you do?
We hit that beyond 4. I know that.
Okay.
Which is awesome. For example, well, actually, I'm thinking of symphonic band. For concert band, I would say we hit the 4 mark because we do a 5th grade visit when they come to the school. That's a formal performance. And then we do, I guess, pre-MPA, you would call that formal, right?
Yeah, but I guess that doesn't count as MPA itself. Yeah, so that's true.
Right. So, and then spring, fall, winter.
Yep, same.
Yep.
Cool. You want to do the next one?
The advanced level concert band participates in community events when the band director deems the situation is appropriate. Absolutely. But as I mentioned in the last episode, we also have the marching band, and concert band students are invited to participate in the marching band. And so that's another way that they participate in community events.
I've never done this I've never brought my intermediate band to a community event. I need to. I'm a bad band director. I need to do that because hearing that sentence is like, you know what? They miss out on that opportunity, and that's crappy.
You were just talking about the MPA opportunity.
Exactly. So
these are just as important.
Yep. Yeah, you're right. So good man. All right. Do the next one.
On average, the intermediate level concert band might participate in 0 to 1 non-FBA sponsored festival or competition each year.
That counts that's like Disney or Universal.
No, I know.
Yeah.
And so what I was going to say is that we combine students from concert and symphonic band to go on a trip. It's either marching band or a sit-down band in the spring.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
What about you?
I need to. I definitely do the combined performance, but I think it would be cool to have in a perfect world if we can. And it's not a perfect world because apparently it's a best practice, so it can be done. So never say never. I think it's important. I think that goes kind of hand in hand with the last bullet that we talked about. Do we have one more?
Mm-hmm.
There are 2 more bullets, right? Yeah.
3.
Okay. I'll do the next one. Students in the intermediate level concert band are encouraged to participate in the FBA solo and ensemble. Yep.
Yeah,
definitely.
All students in the intermediate level concert band are encouraged to take private lessons from professional teachers who are specialists on the student's instrument. Yeah, we have a living list of private teachers that our students and parents can access at any time and that we include in our weekly announcements and reminders. Mm-hmm. And so we do have students, and the amount varies from month to month, but we do have students that participate in private lessons.
I will say for people that are Title I and when they hear the words private lessons, they cringe because it's like, my students can't take lessons. Encourage them anyway. I know there are a lot more people who teach Title I who just stay away from the word private lessons for all their students, and then none of their students take it, whereas opposed to I encourage my kids to do it. I know a majority of my students can't, but I've started encouraging them in the past couple of years, and I've got especially in the top band, you end up with like 3 or 4 or 5, and 3 or 4 or 5 taking private lessons is better than 0. And it also, that's 3 or 4 or 5 more students who are now gaining more access to things like actual opportunities to potentially really make the all-state band, or being told from their private teacher they need to up their game on their instrument, so they get a new instrument. So for people who are Title I, don't be afraid to just mention the phrase, like, it's okay.
Yeah, and there are other ways. I think people automatically assume private lessons means 1 hour a week.
Right.
Doesn't need to be an hour. It doesn't even need to be 30 minutes. It doesn't need to be once a week. It doesn't even need to be every other week. Whatever that student can make work is better than nothing. Just like you said, 3, 4, or 5 students taking private lessons is better than none. Well, 1 lesson per month is better than none.
Yep.
So whatever you guys can work out with the student, let them know. Also, encourage the parents to haggle with the private lessons teacher, or see if they'll give a discount if they buy several lessons at one time.
Oh, yeah.
Or something like that. You just got to get creative.
Oh, yeah. I once watched a haggling session live. It was awesome. And that parent won. And I talked to that private instructor later, and they're like, it's cool, man. That parent was clearly wanting it. So, and
yeah, exactly. I mean, if they're very passionate about helping kids get better on their instrument, they'll make it work.
Mm-hmm.
And if they can't make it work for a student, maybe don't include them on your private lesson list.
Right, let's keep moving.
There's that too. Percussionists in the intermediate level concert band are scheduled in the same class period as the rest of the band at the discretion of the band director and based on scheduling demands.
Yep.
I think that's default.
Yep.
So that's what we do.
So moving on. Same. Advanced band, a lot of this is going to mirror the intermediate band, so we'll just, if we've hit it and there's nothing to say, we'll just kind of move on.
Well, yeah, if we can kind of scroll through and see if there's anything different.
There's not.
I'm scrolling through right now, and okay, all right, how about this? Approximately 90% of the students in the advanced level concert band participate in the FBA district solo and ensemble MPA each year. So they give a specific percentage. Yeah. They're saying that your top band should be leading the way for the rest of the band, and almost everybody should be doing solo and ensemble festival every year.
Yep.
I want to get to that point.
Yeah, we'll get there.
And we'll figure out a way. But I think that's cool. What I don't see here, that's the only difference.
Yeah, everything we talked about, band. If you want to go back and just kind of refresh that, everything we talked about with intermediate band is the exact same as...
Except this.
Yeah, except that.
And I'll say this, though. They don't have auditioning for all county or all state or other regional bands in here.
That's something we could bring up to this committee. I agree. That's missing. And you could have that for the intermediate band as well.
Yeah,
I agree. That's
sure.
You know what? That's missing, and that matters because.
And I wonder why. They might have a rationale for it.
I don't know. When you go up north in Florida, when you get to like Alachua County and like those and like the Panhandle and a little further north, but staying on the west side, where there's not as many bands per county, they do it a lot like Georgia, where it's not all county, but it is all district. So it'd be all FBA district. So up north, you might have 3 or 4 counties involved in one FBA district, and that'll be an all county band. So it's kind of like, it's not regional, like how you guys, like the way Georgia labels it, I guess is different. But
well, they have some counties that are like Broward. The county is its own GMEA district. Yep. And then they have where I used to work in District 2 was several counties.
That's how it is. That's how it is when you get north.
Several counties.
Yeah, that's how it is when you get further north when it's not as populated. But I agree that's missing. Yeah. But other than that, everything's basically the same. You want to move on? Sorry, guys.
Yeah. What?
Okay, so moving on with jazz band. I guess I'll start. The middle school jazz band program in Florida that engages in best practices will observe the following in regards to a jazz band. If numbers allow, there are 2 or more jazz bands in the band program. I do like how it's implicit that you should just have 2.
Well, you should have at least 1.
Right. Okay, that's what I meant.
You should have at least 1. Like, there's just no excuse. You should have 1. And, yeah. I was going to start one my 3rd year at Westglades. I guess I technically should have started it I should have technically started it my 2nd year. But I was definitely planning on my 3rd. I was just trying to get numbers up, and but then COVID hit, and so our 3rd year was basically virtual/hybrid. So definitely this coming school year, I already have plans to start a jazz band. Hopefully we can do 2, but I might wait a year before we do 2 so that there can actually be an actual intermediate and advanced jazz band.
You might want to take, I would say like wait 2 years, just so, because that first year with the jazz band, you're going to learn a lot about a lot of things, and then the second year have a successful year with that one jazz band, and then be able to branch that into 2. I had a jazz band for about 3 years of my first 5 at Coniston. Year 6 was being COVID. Had COVID not happened, I think either this past year or this coming year would have been the first year where I actually create the second jazz band. Because the last year, or 2019-2020's jazz band was off the chain, and we were ready to move up. But that's okay. The next one.
Hey, real quick, did you zoom out?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, I didn't zoom out, but I should be fine. I haven't had problems with not zooming out before. I'm zoomed out now.
Okay.
Okay, next one. The top jazz band is scheduled during the regular school day. Now, this one's interesting. I've heard that this could be detrimental to students taking the actual concert band class, because then it takes up both of their elective classes. What about you?
It depends on how much schedule you have, and then you also just have those dedicated kids. Like when I had block schedule and the kids had 8 classes, having the top jazz band as a second class worked, because the kids would have sometimes 3 or 4 electives. So that wasn't a problem in a block schedule environment.
I see.
It can happen. You just have to communicate with those kids, like, do you want both your classes to be banned? And you're going to find a lot of those kids are going to go, yeah, totally. Because, like, you'll find kids will die for jazz band. It's really odd. They love the concert band because they love the opportunities that come with it, but kids will die for their jazz band. Like, I'm pretty sure if I don't restart the jazz band post-COVID, I might get killed by like a 7th grader. I'm pretty sure it's going to happen. So, like, it's I think when you find that nucleus of kids, it won't be as hard as it seems.
I guess it could be a good way to justify adding a period to your schedule if you're lacking any.
That too. And it's also more doable if you have a second band director who is taking, like, let's say your second band director takes an entire beginning band for themselves. That frees you up to do a jazz band, because now you have to fill one of your own sections. So that's a way to do it during the day.
Understood. Mm-hmm. Okay. Hit the next one for us.
All right. When possible, the other jazz bands are also scheduled during the regular school day, but not at the exclusion of other course offerings. I don't know what that means.
Wait.
Yeah.
So.
Right? What?
So, okay. So, is this saying that your other jazz bands, so your intermediate, can be scheduled during the school day, but not at the exclusion of other course offerings? So, I'm really confused.
I think this only works if there are 2 band directors, because if there's only one of you, and let's say you teach a 6-period school, but so meaning you're only teaching 5 and you don't want to give up your planning, you have 3 beginning bands, 2 concert bands. You might be able to, that would mean you'd have to either, and let's say you get rid of your planning, so you have a jazz band, so now you're teaching the entire day.
I see what you mean.
But then if you want to add a second jazz band, you would literally need a second person to do it during the school day.
So don't cut one of your
bands.
beginning band classes for a jazz band class.
Yeah, concert ped
Something
concert ped does not get replaced by jazz ped. Jazz ped is
okay.
Just
However, it doesn't seem like they're saying students that are in your jazz band class during the school day don't have to be in your concert or symphonic band or advanced band.
That's
what it's implying.
I don't remember if that is on here. Let's keep reading to see if that's there. We can talk about that.
We'll see.
We can talk about that at the end.
Right. I guess that's a matter of preference / opinion.
Sure.
Students are required to perform a formal audition in order to be placed in the top jazz band.
I don't
so
do that.
Starting out, it's going to be volunteer. Mm-hmm. And I think to be able to, well, hang on. Yeah, starting out, if it's your only jazz band, I'm not going to I wouldn't audition people. I'm not going to audition for my only jazz band. When it comes to the top jazz band, yeah, they'll do some sort of audition or assessment. What about you?
So what I did is, typically when I create my jazz band, I usually say it's by invitation only. And what invitation only means is it's very loose. The only thing that I think about when I'm thinking about kids to be in jazz band is obviously skill in pedagogy. You have to have a certain level of grit, because you're taking 2 band classes now, which means double the work. But it's also, I do, like, it's two things. It's if you ask me if you want to be in jazz band, the answer is yes. The second thing is if I have to seek out kids to fill out instrumentation, I'll usually approach some of the more involved students, not better students. I'm not talking about skill. I'm talking about involvement and spirit and how much they dig the program as a whole, because those are the kids that even if they didn't think about it at first, they'll be like, yeah, sure, why not? But I don't really do a formal audition. Not really.
Hit the next one for us.
Students are required to perform a formal audition for seating placement. That's jazz pass-offs, which I have my own set. We can talk about that later. But
I want to take a look at those.
Jazz pass-offs, baby. It's not that complicated, but it's they work. Students in the jazz bands earn their grades based off more than just participation attendance. Just
this
like
was in the last,
Yeah, so this is also jazz pass-offs, which again, my jazz pass-offs are not as intense as the concert band ones. They're very light. They're just a certain level of skills that help with improvisation. Like we'll talk about scales. We'll talk about scale modes. I'll have them do listening cards, because a big part of jazz is listening. Like your students need to know what swing feels like and sounds like. So I do a thing called listening cards, where they have to on an index card, do a couple of bullet points or sentences or a paragraph based off of actual source recordings. So like I'll have like it's for me, it's important when I talk to my jazz band, if I'm talking to my trumpet players and I say, you want to make sure you play this solo like Miles. If they don't know what that means, that's a whole lesson you have to get into. Whereas if with your listening cards, they have to go, and I can get more in depth on this later, but like if with their listening cards, it forces them to listen to the pros. So my trumpet players know who Miles is. My set players, they know who Buddy Rich is. And so it's another type of assessment and assignment that I use for them, is to make sure to ensure that they're listening and they know they have their professional person vocabulary. They know exactly who they're listening for. And when I say Chuck Mangione versus Maynard Ferguson, my trumpet players know exactly the difference in style and sound, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. So. All right. Next up is going to be the same as intermediate and advanced band. Perform 2 to 4 public concerts during the regular school year, excluding MPA, and also perform at MPA every year. So, I think that's a given.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so then the next one that's different is, on average, the top jazz band performs in no more than 5 community events each year, excluding recruiting events and or school-related performances.
Yep. Yeah, we talked about this. I talked about this in the last episode, where it's like it's just understood that when you join jazz band at the beginning of the year that you are on call for anything. It never happened. It was supposed to happen during the COVID year, but then it didn't. My jazz band actually got invited to play at the reopening of a historic jazz club in West Palm, so that was going to happen. And we also got invited to open a Publix. That didn't happen. We got invited a bunch of places for COVID, but none of those happened because COVID. But yeah, I tell my jazz band students, like, you are on call for performances, and every extra performance there will be donuts. So, and I think I made that joke last episode, but like donuts are a great incentive to get those kids out to those community events. But 5 is a lot.
That is a lot, and I'm thinking to myself, how am I going to find all those? I'll have to do some digging and some resourcing, but
usually like 2 or 3 might be okay, because I'm
gonna need a band dad to help me move stuff, probably.
That is necessary, but like with 2 or because like think about it, you have 2 or 3 performances on top of your concerts, on top of maybe a jazz night concert with the high school, on top of MPA and pre-MPA. Like they don't need to be performing 10 times in a year. I think max like 8 is okay.
I mean, yeah, do the math. If you do 4 public concerts at your school, that's 4, plus MPA, that's 5 community events. Well, it says no more than 5, so yeah. I don't know, if you do 5, that's 10, plus any recruiting events, and I know we do like 4 or 5 recruiting events, so I mean, we're looking at 10 to 15 concerts.
And something that's interesting in
hefty.
Here in the concert band sections, they were talking about how you want both your intermediate band and your advanced band to be going to outside school performances, yet here it only says top jazz band. So could those 5 performances be split between your top and your second?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know why that's not said. I think that could be added. I think that's important.
Okay.
Because even a basic, really like chill swing chart that the 7th graders are doing, if they perform it well, then who cares what band it is,
For sure.
All right.
All right, hit these next two for us.
What was that? The all students in jazz bands?
On average.
Okay. Like the 0 to 1 or the more than?
Yeah.
Okay. On average, the top jazz band participates in 0 to 1 non-FBA sponsored festival competitions. That counts as like a Disney or a Universal.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fine. That's a lot of buses because you're doing that for your concert bands as well.
I wonder if there's a way to do concert and jazz on the same trip.
Ooh, that's a lot of buses. I think what might be cool is maybe you do like a rotation. Maybe like 1 year you do the concert bands. If you have to combine them so that you have enough instrumentation. Maybe 1 year take the concert bands, and then the next year take the jazz bands. I'm thinking about how my budget outside of school money is like bits and pennies.
I'm thinking like if you're already going to do a Universal trip with your combined concert bands, the students that are on the bus for that are also in the jazz band. Like you can make it so.
You're not wrong. That's a good idea. Okay.
Or just, add 15 more seats to the bus and brings the price of the trip down.
Right. All right, we got 2 more.
Okay.
Yeah.
All students in the jazz bands are encouraged to take private lessons from professional teachers who specialize in jazz and are specialists on the students' instruments. This is highly recommended for students in the rhythm section. Jazz lessons are not to replace traditional private lessons, but rather serve as a supplement to them. I mean, sounds pretty straightforward. Makes sense.
Yeah, let's hope that whatever teacher they're using for their private lessons in concert band, hopefully they have jazz experience. Like if you're, maybe that might exclude a clarinet player who's also doubling on alto. But like, I don't know a single professional trumpet teacher who doesn't know how to play jazz. You know what I mean? Same with trombone and same with percussion.
Okay, go ahead and take away the last one for us.
Okay. Improvisation is taught in the jazz bands through the use of method books, instructional recordings, instruction on modeling by the teacher, guest clinicians, private lessons, live performances, student mentoring, that's cool, and guided listening and professional recordings. Yes to all of those things. There's 1,000 ways, in addition to just the basic theory of getting them to play improvisation, there's 1,000 ways to get them to expand their vocabulary. And all of these are great. I've never seen student mentoring. I got to dive into that a little bit more. And right now I can't really student mentor because everyone that was in the jazz band is leaving. So if you're starting out a jazz band for the very first time, student mentoring may not be a thing, but probably by year 2 or 3, absolutely. But yeah, all of these are legit. The Standard of Excellence Jazz series is awesome because it teaches them basic licks per song and per the key and for that fit into the changes. So it's a good way to teach them basic licks. It also teaches that series, the Standard of Excellence Jazz, teaches modes. It teaches blues scale. I think at some point it gets to the whole tone scale. Absolutely, using guest clinicians. Yep. Yeah, it's all good.
I think it is too. And let's see. Method books. I was going to ask you if you use method books. I was able to get a hold of book 1 and book 2 of the method book you just mentioned. So I'm looking forward to studying that before
those are awesome.
School starts up.
And they also, in addition to providing all of those like basic chops that you can use, it's also really, really good because it helps with it also helps with using they have a lot of really, really good licks, or not licks, pieces. That's what I was trying to come up with the word pieces.
So like concert pieces, like you could do for a performance.
Like, and the thing is that for Jazz MPA, if you didn't know, there is no actual music list, so you can do whatever you want. Just make sure the styles vary. But like my first 2 years of jazz bands, when I took them to MPA, two of the 3 pieces were from the Standard of Excellence book because it's good style and it's the fundamentals are there. No shame.
Okay, great, good to know.
Cool.
I will probably be doing that.
So these are the best practices. We've covered a lot in the past 2 episodes. If there's anything that you thought was missing, let us know because we can probably notify some of these people the next time, or like maybe we can probably notify. I guess the guy is Jeff Kayer. He's the middle school representative. We could probably let him know and be like, hey, we kind of read these through. We thought of these things. Just maybe the next time you guys revise this, go for it. It looks like they revise it every like 9. Last time it took them 9 years to revise the first one. But if you guys, in addition to what we pointed out isn't on here, like we talked about grants, we talked about a couple other things. If there's anything missing, let us know, and we can we can and will make a point to make your voice heard.
Yeah, or maybe they're listening.
Yeah, maybe.
If they're cool, they're listening.
Hi, Jeff. Oh, Mike Lafredo's on here too, so he might be listening as well.
Yeah, he might. Yeah.
So cool. So yeah, that takes us out. I hope you guys learned a lot. You have anything else to add?
That's it.
Cool.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Peace, y'all.
All right, everybody. Thanks again for listening. That was another episode of the Florida Band Podcast. Please follow us on YouTube and other podcast platforms, wherever you get your podcasts. Remember, you can contact us at flbandpodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. Until next time, stay safe, be well.